Vans, you said?
Yes,
Right.
his problems were my problems. What do
Fascinating.
you think?
All right. Well,
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah,
with that in mind,
yeah.
we are back
We're back after many moons. Well,
many moons,
maybe a moon, maybe 2 moons.
about 2 moons. So
Different.
Katie and I
Yeah,
were going to do something, but then we got busy.
yeah.
We couldn't figure out what we wanted to do. And we were like, at this point, we were like, Don's coming back in a week.
You know what that just proves, Javier? A woman can never pass.
All jokes, friends. But
But my ancestors did believe that women were just defective men.
Jesus
I
Christ,
know,
that's
not a
insane.
good look.
Not a good look.
Not a good look.
Um, but so it's been a while.
Yeah,
I want to say the last episode that we recorded, according to according to my calculations,
it's Game of Thrones.
was a Game of Thrones episode 2,
Yeah,
and
and that's
we
about to
are
be episode 8.
so it's been a while.
Yeah,
Um, went on his honeymoon. He got married.
I got married.
He was gone for 2 weeks and missed
Yeah,
the world falling apart.
my I had been to these continents before, but my wife had previously only ever been to the U.S. and Mexico.
Mhm.
Now she's been to the U.S., Mexico, Greece, and Turkey, Europe, and Asia. So now she's added 2 more continents
Oh,
to her repertoire. I did miss like the 2 most eventful like news weeks
yeah, you did.
of possibly throughout the decade. We got Rona of the year.
I mean,
There,
an assassination attempt
yeah, that cracks the
is.
top 10. That cracks the top 10.
We get pandemics all the time,
Yeah.
just not here.
I almost died last night. Everybody check your carbon monoxide. Yeah, but it's good. It's good to be back. I will say though, since bringing it back to House of the Dragon real quick, it's amazing how much media you can miss while being gone, quote unquote. And
Yeah.
it's not that I feel like I'm not in the loop, but like while I was wedding prepping, as we were doing work around the house, I'm like listening to like podcasts, constantly to the point where I was like I was like draining out my feed. I like listened, whatever I was listening to, I listened to everything. And like just 2 weeks later, like just one of them, like I still haven't like, there's one that I haven't even touched since I got back. That's like, it is crazy what 2 weeks can do to
Yeah.
to
Which
your
one have you
media.
not touched?
Bible Project.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, you missed the ending of the boys. You
Yeah.
missed the ending of the acolyte.
Yep. I caught
You
up on Acolyte.
Oh,
I
okay.
caught up on Acolyte.
Did you also have thoughts on it? 'Cause I don't really have thoughts on it.
It's
It's
fine.
fine.
I liked it less as it went on,
hmm
I'll say.
I feel like it wasn't strong throughout. It was just like
The
okay
twins
throughout.
just aren't interesting characters.
No, and
And
she's not a bad actress.
no,
She's a really good actress. I just feel like
she just doesn't have much to do.
she's a very boring character on
Correct.
her own.
Correct.
I think the two characters, like if you gave both characters to one single character,
Yeah.
I think you'd have a more complex,
There's more there, but they still never really do anything like
substantial.
cool. There's nothing there to me. Like, I'm gonna root for this kid with moxie. Yeah,
Yeah,
where's the moxie? Missing the sauce. Missing
for
the
sure.
sauce.
What else did you miss? You missed some some worldwide detrimental like information. Well, you had the assassination
The
attempt.
assassination attempt, what
Which
uh,
was insane.
insane. I told you yesterday. I talked to someone 2 days ago here in the U.S. who didn't know the assassination attempt happened because we were talking about how Trump was in Chicago, and then I'm like, yeah, I think he's in Pennsylvania today. And then he's like, oh man, is he like Pennsylvania? And I'm like, I don't know. Last time he was there, he had a problem. And he's like, what? Did he get robbed? I'm like, yeah, something like that. And he was like, who robbed him? I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you don't know what happened? And he's like, no. I'm like, you hear about the assassination? He's like, oh, no.
That's kind of amazing.
That's utterly. These are the people you pick for jury duty.
These are the people you pick for jury duty for sure. Uh, we had a really, really awful debate.
Really, really awful debate.
Then we had the dropping out.
Then we had the dropping out.
Have a new vice
Did I
president.
miss the debate?
The debate happened before you left,
Yeah,
but after we recorded Hati,
yeah,
I
yeah,
believe,
yeah.
or had just happened.
Yeah.
You also, we have a new candidate.
We have a new candidate.
Man, it
We,
is amazing the amount of years that happened in the past 2 weeks.
you and I should review Hillbilly Elegy one
Oh
day
no,
because I honestly I hated it when I saw it, and now we have even more reason
to hate
to
it.
shit on it. Yeah,
Maybe, may I think I've seen it.
it's a hard life. People like
I can't remember if I've seen it or I've just seen so many clips of it, like dunking on it, that I
yeah,
feel like
I
I've
feel
seen
like
it.
you've seen it.
But
I'm ready to dunk. If there's one thing that gets me happy
just
after
dunking on something.
a near-death attempt in the middle of the night, it's making a Republican feel mad.
Oh boy, oh
Yeah,
boy. So speaking of dunking on things,
yeah.
we probably won't be doing a lot of dunking.
No, we're probably having a jolly old time, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're gonna talk about Deadpool and Wolverine,
yeah,
the latest MCU,
yes.
but also
Fox,
Fox
yeah.
movie, right?
Crossover.
We haven't had a crossover like that since maybe WandaVision, and even that was not really
Not really,
like a crossover because like
yeah,
it ended up that Quicksilver wasn't really Quicksilver,
correct.
so who the fuck knows?
Yes,
Um, but we have Deadpool officially joining quote unquote our sacred timeline
exactly.
in some way, shape, or form. Logan is back
Hmm.
after being dead for oh boy,
Uh, that movie, I feel like, I mean, at this point, it's pre-COVID, so it did come out a fat minute ago. But like
yeah,
that movie feels old right now. Let me see what.
2017.
Wow, that's a whole world away.
Yeah, 7 years,
That's amazing.
almost 10 years.
Yeah.
It's nuts to me though that I know Logan is not the last Fox movie to come out, but it really feels like it is.
Yes,
Because Dark Phoenix came out in 2019, and
correct.
I'm pretty sure Logan didn't show up in that movie. He showed up in the other one, Apocalypse.
Apocalypse, yes.
I'm pretty sure he shows up in like a bunker. Jean Grey gives him like a weird touch in the face,
Yeah,
and then he like dips out
from Phoenix
from
or Apocalypse, which one?
in Apocalypse. He just like
So
leaves.
he's not really in those two at all.
No, he shows up for like a scene in
That's so
Apocalypse, and I'm
strange.
pretty sure he's not in Dark Phoenix at all.
I find that very strange
Yeah,
just to think about because I mean Logan itself really was like framed to sort of take place in the future after after an indiscriminate an indiscriminate period of time.
2029.
Oh, so it had a year. Okay, but in the future, right? After things had happened.
Wait, what?
Logan the movie.
Yeah, it takes place in 2029.
Okay, but like comparatively to every other Fox movie,
Uh,
like in the future of those, right?
sure.
Yes. So like you can still have him running around.
You could. I think it was more a matter of like Hugh Jackman just didn't want to come back.
Ah, I see.
I mean, like getting in shape, getting in that shape.
Hey man, clearly Rupert Murdoch was not able to open them pockets.
Um,
What a testament to. I mean, here I know they're all filthy rich companies, right?
uh-huh.
Disney is probably the most filthy rich of them all.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you know, oh, RDJ happened since we last record, right? As Doctor Doom.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
So, I mean, there is something to the power of money. I'm not saying it was only money, but like,
Money helps.
yeah, if you write a big enough check,
If you write a big enough check.
a lot can happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get into this movie. Really quick, just thoughts on it. I really enjoyed it.
Yep.
I think it's if you've seen the other two Deadpool movies and you
Yeah.
walk into this one expecting
There should be no surprises.
something
Yeah.
something shocking or like deep character, like I don't know what you saw in the last two.
Right.
Like don't get me, they're good movies all around, but they're not like deep plot,
Yeah.
deep character. Like they're fun action movies.
Yes.
And I find it. hard
fun, fourth wall breaking action
for
scenes.
sure.
Yes.
That's half of the appeal.
Yeah.
I feel it's very disingenuous of people to be like, this is not what I was promised.
No, I think this might be one of the most tonally consistent trilogies that I know.
Oh, for sure.
Um, I think, like you said, if you've seen the first two, you should very much know
What you're getting
what you're
into.
getting into,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
I feel like it pretty much almost 100% delivers exactly what it needs to deliver.
For sure.
And like I think the nice surprise for me is I didn't really want, need, or think this was going to be like such a good tribute and farewell to the Fox franchise.
Hmm.
I didn't realize how much it would take that angle. But it did, and I think it worked really well.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
going into this movie, people who haven't seen it need to realize like that is what it is. It's a love letter
Yeah.
to Fox. It's a farewell.
Right.
It's a celebration of like the characters who maybe didn't get like
Yes.
a satisfying
Satisfying
end
conclusion. Yeah.
or
Or
career.
beginning.
Or be, I think overall though, like for me, everything in this movie works. I think the cinematography looks great. Like there's
Yeah.
some shots in this that I'm like, it really does feel like it was filmed on location in some place.
Yeah.
And there are some scenes where you're like, oh, this was clearly like in a soundstage,
Exactly.
right? So like you get your bit of both, and I get it. I think soundtrack wise, it's very different from the other two.
Yeah.
It does feel a little Guardians of the Galaxy-ish,
More needle drops.
quite a few needle drops.
Yeah.
Which I'm
Which
not saying it's a bad thing.
which shouldn't feel out of place for. I mean, different from the other two, yes, but like if you're
Yeah.
gonna have a needle drop movie, then it's Guardians and Deadpool would make sense.
For sure. I
Yeah.
feel like if I'm watching Captain America and there's a needle drop, I
Yeah.
think it's a lot more jarring
Exactly.
than if there's a needle drop here.
Yeah.
Um, and even then, like to that extent though, like the needle drops are good.
Yes.
The music, the opening credits scene, I
Yeah.
think it's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Like every time I watch it, I'm like, this is a lot of fucking fun. Like just bye bye bye.
Desecrating the corpse.
So let's get into what this movie is.
Hmm.
Let's get into the spoilers. So in this movie, Deadpool is. th- I feel like the synopsis is a little off because it says that he's offered. It says Deadpool is offered a place in the cinematic universe by the TVA, but instead he recruits a variant of Wolverine to save his universe. I mean, it
Yeah.
is, but there's like kind of a bit more,
Mm.
right?
Correct.
Right. So like they're saying, well, because Logan died in Logan, your universe is essentially going to start falling apart from the end,
Exactly.
right? And this is where we start to kind of get into the idea of what these like what an anchor being is. And I feel like I'm hearing a lot of confusion
Yeah.
because we have Nexus beings, we have canon events,
Right.
we have now anchor beings.
You still have the you still have the unclear distinction between what a universe is and what a timeline is.
I think that's more straightforward than people think it is.
Regardless, you still have many things. It's like the Panera you pick two versus the value
The
pair.
value deals.
Yes. Value
Yeah.
duet. Value duet.
Value duets.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
Exactly.
Um,
There's room for confusion.
there's room for confusion, but I think for the purposes of like having these conversations of what things are,
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that like Fox Universe,
Yeah.
like that is its universe, like the studio itself. But then
Right.
you have branching timelines from that universe, which leads to like your Elektra, your
Hmm.
Fantastic Fours, your Blades,
Hmm.
your Deadpool. Because technically speaking, like Deadpool is in the same universe as
X-Men.
X-Men, but
Yeah.
even then, X-Men,
It's not in the same universe as Fantastic Four.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like more of a timeline thing than a fully universal thing because there are references to other things,
Yeah.
right? And then like separately in like the MCU, like all of that takes place in one single timeline,
Right.
but like in Avengers, like they talk about like what happens if you change something. Well, now that becomes a new thing.
Yeah.
So it's a little, it is convoluted.
So Fox was not on the sacred timeline.
No,
It's a separate
it's a separate
separate
thing.
timeline.
And that's what this movie is, right?
Yeah.
It's them saying, hey, the higher ups want you, Deadpool,
Yeah.
to join the sacred timeline. So join the 616,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I do think it's funny that of all the characters that they think is going to go along with this, easy peasy,
It's Deadpool.
it's definitely. And I get that, like he does say he's like I'm nothing if morally flexible,
Yeah.
so I get it. But I feel like if you watched any of Deadpool's story, which they clearly do because they have
Right.
DVD quality images,
Oh, that's good DVD quality images.
and they're like, yeah, he won't do the right thing,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to his friends. Someone who went back in time and killed people
Yeah.
to save his girlfriend.
Yep.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
will absolutely do something.
Tracks.
It
You know,
tracks.
he's also the only one who's still relevant.
Absolutely. Um, so we had in this movie like a hunt for a new Wolverine because with Logan being gone, they said like he is an anchor being.
That was the joke that I saw coming, but the way it was delivered, just like totally sold it for. First of all, the acting in this movie across the board makes it.
I
Like
think everybody is
the,
spot on with their character.
everyone's doing exactly what they need to, and I feel like if you had lesser talent, you would have a significantly like lesser movie.
There's
That
something so earnest
yeah,
about Ryan Reynolds being this ADHD, annoying ass, grating fucking character.
yeah, such a personality,
But it's what it needs to be.
right?
And like, I'm sorry if you walk into this and you go, "Ugh, he's so annoying. I can't stand
But
it."
that's the point.
I'm sorry, you are watching the wrong
That's the
thing.
point.
Like that's what he is. If you ever read a Deadpool comic, if you ever played the Deadpool games
Yeah.
or the Deadpool game, like that's what he is.
Were people fan casting him as Deadpool before the first Wolverine movie, or did that just like the demand for him to get a Deadpool movie start after?
It started after. I
Yeah.
think in Origins, he does a really good job at playing
Yeah.
like the Wade Wilson character
Hmm.
as being like a fast talker, like shit talker, fun character who's really like skilled in
Yeah.
what he does. And it's not until they just wreck his shit in the last like after that movie that people got upset
Because I'm trying to think of other cases where like a fandom demanded a character play a
into like
role or
existence.
an actor. Yeah. And then maybe Henry Cavill with The Witcher. I can't remember.
I think Henry Cavill,
Yeah.
because he had talked previously about it,
About
um,
loving it.
about loving The
Yeah.
Witcher, and then they were like, ah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And like I think the closest we have in his recent memory is the John Krasinski cameo of Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah, which also like worked. So it's amazing when it's amazing when an audience can say like, ah, if you had one and one and it gets two, it's going to be amazing. It actually
it actually,
happens.
yeah. And I think it's also very telling the dedication that he has for the character,
Right.
that he was willing to fight like as hard as he did for Deadpool to come out. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's never been confirmed, but it's all but confirmed that he was the one who leaked the
The
test footage
of
back in like
the
2014 or whatever it
for
was.
him. Yeah.
Because like that really is what kickstarted things. Because like there was always rumblings that like he was interested in making a straight up like Deadpool
Deadpool
movie,
movie. Yeah.
and then they were like, "Oh yeah, we have some test footage, but we can't release it."
Right.
And then like it was just fucking leaked,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know. I really do feel really happy for him
Well then
for getting this done.
and look where we are now. I was listening to charts this morning, like the top five opening weekends for R-rated movies are
Yeah.
all superhero movies, right? And three of
Uh,
them are Deadpool,
yeah.
right? And I think I think that just speaks to the demand that there is for this genre and this character. But
Absolutely.
really quickly, I just want to shout out Matthew McFadyen in that scene.
I know him from Succession,
Yep,
but in passing, I've never actually watched Succession.
and he channels, I think, a lot of his Succession character's energy in this movie. I think it's elevated and more cartoonish in a
Hmm.
great way. that he's speaking with this British accent. He is British, so I'm curious as to like how close like that is to his real accent.
Okay. In
Um,
Succession, he
he's
has an
American,
American accent.
yeah.
Okay.
But like he has a lot of those, like he has a lot of that like toxic boss energy, and now with this like with this over saccharine like drooling like British accent, it just works so well.
He
So
plays such a mustache twirling villain in
such a
this. It's so fucking
but then
funny.
he's like, you thought you were the angry. And then he just starts laughing his ass off. That like that's the joke that I'm like I knew was coming, but like once it was delivered, I'm like, you brought all you could to this
Yeah.
joke. And I think that's the story of this movie. You kind of know what to expect, but then like it brings everything that it can to deliver you what you thought you were going to be delivered.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the same thing
Yeah,
with like for me with the cameos. Like
yeah,
you knew cameos were coming. They told us cameos were coming, but I
right.
think the cameos they chose to use
We're the right
were
ones.
used at the right
Yeah,
like the timing was right for those cameos to come
yeah,
in. The amount of screen time they got and
right.
how they were used, I feel like were appropriate.
Yep.
Um,
This movie is the best sausage pizza that you can get delivered to your house from your local pizza place. No surprises, right? Like in terms of you kind of know what you're gonna get, but like it delivers. It
yeah.
delivers. Yeah.
I mean, even then though, I feel like even if you're expecting cameos, I feel like some of the
Some
cameos
of
they
these cameos,
got
yes, yes.
were very
Very,
surprising.
yes. We'll talk about
So
them.
we'll talk
Yeah.
about those. So I love the like we already talked about the intro credit scene, the fight scene. Like it's not just an intro credits, like it's a full on like fight scene
Yeah.
with that Logan's the TVA using
Wolverine's
Logan's
Wolverine's bones.
fucking
Yeah.
bones, which is a great it's already a great way to start the movie. But I'm saying like, oh, we are
We're
going to
just gonna
desecrate,
just yeah.
we are going to totally undo,
Exactly.
and then it's like, oh wait, no,
Right.
it isn't.
Right.
Which I think it's a good it's also a good way to approach the idea of the multiverse because
Mm.
like when you start with the multiverse like you're already setting yourself up for well a character death people saying character deaths won't matter
Yeah.
because well Tony died and guess what we've seen him what 5 times in What If,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So like sure but I don't understand people who have that idea that like well now because we have another Tony what happened in Endgame doesn't matter. And I'm like, I still feel like Endgame and the story of that Tony like is able to stand on its own. Same with Logan.
Yes.
The story of Logan
Is
and
it
how his
yeah.
movie ended and like that sentiment that you felt watching that movie the first time,
Yeah.
like it doesn't go away because now there's a new Wolverine or a new Logan, even if it's played by the same guy.
Yeah.
I just are people that like lacking of like object permanence?
Well, it's that, and also, so I saw one critique of this movie that they feel like it doesn't further the MCU enough. But then I'm like, all right, like if you're gonna have, a plot pivotal film for this entire franchise, which is largely like directed towards children, it can't be the Deadpool movie, right? Like,
Yeah,
like this can't be the movie that has major plot points that like you can't let your 12-year-old go see, right?
not just that. I mean, I feel like for a movie to make this much money,
Yeah,
there were kids.
your
I mean,
kids.
in
Yeah,
all of my screenings, I've seen it 4 times. In
yeah.
every single one of my screenings, there have been young children as young as like 5,
But you can't count on like,
for sure.
yeah,
But I also feel like you cannot expect a movie with a character who has not been
in the
in
MCU.
the MCU, who
Yeah,
has actually been part of a different universe,
yeah.
to have world-shaking consequences in this universe.
And this is where I actually like largely throw a lot of the blame on like the theorizing culture that's on the internet. And there's
Yeah.
some people who do it well, there's some people who do it terribly. I kind of do I kind of do hate all of it because there's been very rare ones that I've heard people and they're always done with love and like detail, but there's very rare ones that I've heard. I'm like, oh, that actually sounds like a good idea. And I think people get like too wrapped up into their theories and they project them. And then that's one of the ways that they're disappointed. Um, but as for like that, I like how you phrase like they kind of like lack that object permanence. Like these movies are and have always been constructed in a way where like yes, there's a loose connection, but you should be able to enjoy the one movie, right? on its
Hmm.
own if you wanted to, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's very much what's happening here. What's happening with Logan? You could watch Logan, and like I think whatever threads that it has, like are loose enough where I could watch that movie and be like, the body in there is dead permanently. And actually,
It
it
is,
is.
which is so funny.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah,
That whole sequence is just really funny,
mm,
and I love his delivery. And there's multiple deliveries of this because Deadpool gets a couple of these, and also Mr. Paradox gets one at the end,
yeah,
where like they're just going on about something, and you just go fuck,
yeah,
and it hits. It gets me every single time.
yeah,
But after he finds out that he needs to get a Wolverine, and this one is dead, he goes on this montage and we get one, two, three, four, five, six different variants of Wolverine.
yeah.
We get the I love the comic accurate Wolverine
Yes, that
because
was
I love that that's just such a smack in the face to everybody who's like, but they're not comic accurate.
yeah. It's like
Because sometimes
it looks
it
ridiculous.
looks fucking
Yeah,
ridiculous, and I mean that is a 5'4"
yeah,
little Wolverine, stocky as fuck, built like a shit truck. And he just, I love, he's like, oh, didn't you stick the landing, little guy? We get Age of Apocalypse Wolverine, which is
yeah,
very like 80s slash 90s, missing the hand,
yeah,
huge hair.
yeah.
Old Man Logan is on there. The tan and brown suit Logan who fights Wolverine.
Right.
I believe that is the sorry, Hulk. That's the introduction of
Yep.
Hulk, I believe. The one in the crucifix, which is a
Sexy Wolverine
very
is what I'm gonna call
cool.
it.
You think that one's sexy
Yeah,
Wolverine?
I think there's some sexy in there.
In the
Yeah,
crucifix?
yeah, yeah.
Interesting. That's from Uncanny X-Men. And the one that I actually gasped the first time I saw
What was
this,
Henry Cable?
Henry Cavill, the
Yeah,
Cavalrine.
yeah.
Because I was like, I've heard rumors that they wanted him to be like the Wolverine post like
For the MCU
for the MCU, like after Hugh Jackman like
was
goes
done.
away.
Yeah.
I had also heard that Taron Egerton is also like considered Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh wow. Yeah, I've heard Daniel Radcliffe.
And I had put a lot more stake in those other two
Yeah, than Henry
because
Cable.
Cavill,
Yeah.
like having him be Superman,
Right.
and then but then you have that joke built in where he's like, "Those shit fucks on the street haven't treated you good. We're gonna treat you good."
Right.
And he does his arm reloading thing from Fallout, which is from Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
He just fucking like pumps his
Oh, seriously?
arms and
Yeah.
then punches. It's so good. Uh, Great stuff. And then we end with our Logan for the movie,
Right.
who is just
The worst Logan.
the worst Logan. And
Which
I think what helps.
yeah.
Go ahead, because I think you had something.
I was gonna say I think this is one of my critiques. I don't even by the end when the story is explained, I don't really buy that this is the worst Logan. I think maybe if you just gave the same explanation but like a different delivery, I don't know what kind of delivery I wanted. But whatever the mystery was, it did fall short of my expectations.
Yeah, I think they could have, and you know how we always talk about how like show don't tell.
Yeah,
I feel like this suffers especially from that
right.
because like we are told that like he went on a rampage,
Yeah,
killed the baddies, but then he couldn't stop and kill
a lot of
good
people.
people,
Right.
which then turned everybody in the world against the mutants,
Yeah,
and then he ended up alone.
right.
Um, but then like there's no signifying, but there's nothing to signify that that's happening when he's at the bar.
Yeah,
Aside from the guy at the bar
yeah.
telling him
You
like you're
better.
not, we don't like
Yeah,
your kind around here, boy.
yeah.
Like aside from that guy, like he's still serving him.
Yep.
So like things aren't that bad.
Yeah,
I think we had gotten even if it was like snippets of
right.
him killing people, like going on the rampage. It doesn't have to be long,
Yeah.
but I think that would have been it would have made that case a little stronger.
Yes.
Um,
I think Ronan in Avengers has a kind of similar story that I'm also not saying is done perfectly, but I feel like is done.
in Guardians?
No, fuck, what's Hawkeye's name? What's Hawkeye's name when he's not Hawkeye?
Oh, Ronin. Gotcha,
Yes,
gotcha. I
yeah.
was thinking Ronin the
No, not
Accuser.
Ronan the Accuser. Yeah,
Gotcha, gotcha.
Ronan. I think he has like the most comparable story of something we've seen so far, where like hero just starts killing people
Hmm.
right out of sad. And I think
Did we
even
see him?
and I was gonna say I see even that is done better than better than this.
Yeah.
And I think something that I love about this movie is all my biggest flaws with it are actually things that sort of happen at the beginning, and then it either overcomes those flaws or you just like forget about them, and like the
Yeah.
remaining 80% of the movie is
It's
fantastic.
can't remember what movie it is. I want to say it's either the first or the second X-Men movie
Yeah.
where Logan is going on a rampage, and in
Hmm.
his rampage he stabs, I'm pretty sure Rogue
Mm.
on accident.
Hmm.
And that's what like shakes him out of his rage because he's like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah.
And then like she like sucks up his life juice
There's
and heals
things.
herself, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good like visual representation of like what it's like for him to fully like go into this like rage,
Yeah.
and like what it does take to like get him out of it,
Right.
and the fact that he wasn't able to get out of it and just
Keep
indiscriminately
going.
kill,
Yeah.
right? I think that would have been such a like such a visual to show like just how fucked like how much he fucked up.
Yeah.
Again, I agree with you. I don't think it's one of those
It
things that
doesn't
like
stick the
I thought
landing.
about it,
Yeah.
but I'm like I don't care.
There's enough that happens later where you're willing to overlook,
Thousand
some
percent.
of the pattern.
Um, we get sent back to the void, which we haven't been here since Loki episode 5, season 1,
Yes.
which is
Which is we wouldn't have known
I
that.
I will say I feel like this movie does have the highest. So not all the fourth wall breaks work. I think that's just
Right.
it's a symptom of having a comedy, right?
Yeah.
Like
Really? Because I think a lot. I can't think of one that didn't work for me. But you've seen it 3 times. You've seen it 4 times.
I've seen it 4 times, and
Yeah.
there's some that I'm always like, okay,
Right.
like I'm not saying they're bad, but
Right.
there's some that work way more than others.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
I loved that one.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I think this movie for sure has
It makes fun of
the
the nerds.
most.
Yes.
It's fucking funny.
Yeah.
The so the fight they had, the first fight is really good.
Yeah.
The Deadpool and Wolverine fight. I think it's kind of cool that Wolverine just does not give a fuck about the guns and just gets rid of them immediately because he like cuts them off. I do think having these two characters fight hand to hand is a lot more interesting.
Hmm.
And I've heard people go, "There's no stakes. Both of these guys regenerate." I'm like, that's kind of the fun of
That's the
it.
fun of it. Yeah.
That's why you can do
And that's why you can do it over and over again. And we'll
exactly.
focus on the style.
And I like kind of how, and this is something. This is a very wrestling term. It's the story they tell in the fight, which I never really thought it was something
Mm.
until like I recently got back into wrestling.
Yeah, because you haven't read How to Read Literature Like a Professor.
Is that a thing?
It's a thing.
But it's different from reading it. 'Cause
Sure, but
I feel like when you're reading a conflict like that, you can get ideas of what's going on through people's minds.
yes, but you can also do it through description and imagery.
Sure. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think also like when you're watching it, you're not as so like for me when you're watching something, it's easier for you to like get sucked into like the spectacle of it
Yep.
and not really think about like
What's
the purpose,
yes.
right? And I do feel like in these two fight scenes that we have between Logan and Wade,
Yeah.
like you do get that story happening of like at the beginning is just like it's the frustration of like you got me into this mess.
Yeah.
And then like the later fight scene, it's them kind of like,
The futility.
yeah,
Yeah. The
and
futility that they find themselves in.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate those a lot. Um, the Captain America cameo here is
Oh,
fucking great, I think.
and that totally. I was.
Did it get you?
It totally got me.
Really?
I mean,
Okay.
the only spoiler I had going into this was that Blade appears.
Interesting.
So I
Of
didn't.
all the spoilers.
I got it from my personal trainer.
Oh, funny.
Um, so I had no idea about Chris Evans. And actually seeing this after Robert Downey Jr., I really had no idea about like Chris Evans. Um, and then yeah, and then when he said "flame on," it did. It got me.
For me, what gave it away was the collar on his shirt. Because I
Yeah.
was like, Captain doesn't wear this looks like the Fantastic Four suit to me.
Yes.
And then
I think his
he
cloak has some like red and blue on
does
it.
have red
Yeah.
and blue.
Yeah.
Um, he's also like really thin.
Yes.
which is more of a Johnny thing than a Cap
The
thing.
cat thing.
Um, but man, it's a good use of the character, and I think I love the fact that you get a small hint where he
Yeah.
calls him like Dick for brains,
Mm,
and even Deadpool like looks at him like, wait, what?
that's not, yeah,
That's not a captain thing.
exactly.
But you can also like almost excuse it. You're like, oh, maybe he's been here for so long, and he's just
It's
like,
a variant.
yeah,
Anything is possible. This is
for
Captain
sure.
America the Dick.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, having him say "Flame on" and just fly up, having the Fantastic Four music play,
Yeah.
like it's really cool. Um, Cassandra's crew, I think it's a bit light on like interest.
How did you feel about the blatant Mad Max? Um,
I think it's so fucking funny.
what like
'Cause that's what the Void is, though.
it is
Like
Mad
it
Max.
is a
Yeah.
literal wasteland.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, oh, it's Australia.
No, it's
This is a wasteland,
yeah.
right? So like having them be able to make fun of it, and I think it's the fact that they address it multiple
They do
times.
address it multiple times, and then it does keep going.
It keeps. But I also think that's a very like. I mean, it is what happens in like post-apocalyptic world-ish type things, right? Like you have convoys, you have people.
You drive what, motorcycles on chariots? Is that why?
That is, I think, the most like one-to-one
It's very one
thing.
to one.
It's literally like it was literally just
Yeah.
in Furiosa, which I think is why it's so fresh in our minds. I didn't catch it until my second time watching, and then I was like, wait, hold on a second.
Right.
He's got the full-on chariot, like what was his name? I know it's Chris Evans, but I'm blinking on his name.
Human Torch. The the
In Furiosa, Chris Evans' character is the one with the chariot.
Chris Evans.
Yeah, not Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, die something. The Dementis. The Dementis.
Dementis,
Yeah.
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 Um, so I do think that is the most like blatant.
Yeah.
Aside from him going, I have the head of Furiosa, Queen Furiosa. But I like Cassandra herself. I think she's a fun character to
I
watch.
enjoy her as a villain.
Um, I also enjoy her as more like not necessarily like a pure villain, but more as just like a chaotic force
Yep.
here in the void. Like just like this is her jam. This is what she
She's
wants
just
to do.
all id.
Um, People were like, I don't like that she flip flops back and forth, but
I think that's a character.
I think it makes
Yeah.
sense for the context of like the story happening, like why she would flip flop back and forth at the end.
And I even think her desire to just destroy everything makes sense. And that if you have this person who, like I just said, is all in and like all instinct,
Hmm.
and then she gets mad, it's when breaks out on her deal. Like I could see that type of
Absolutely,
person
it
just be
makes
like,
perfect
"Fuck,
sense to
I'm
me.
just gonna destroy everything," right?
Hmm.
So I guess she's like more of an antagonist and maybe not really like a villain.
No, I feel like she's more like yeah, you're right. She is an antagonist,
Yeah.
whereas the villain in this movie is Paradox.
But then actually, I think this movie, like the way they have to defeat her, I think actually is where this movie kind of like punches above its weight class because like she is OP, like power wise, like very, very OP,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And like yes, like Wade and Logan have the healing strength, but as we can see, like there's nothing that they can really do that can like overcome her level of psychic power, minus like the Juggernaut helmet. But even still, like you have to keep it, you have to keep it on her.
Yeah, you gotta keep it on
Yeah,
and keep it on until she dies. And even
yeah,
getting close to her is not an
is not
easy
easy.
task, right?
So I like the fact that like the final fight against her isn't really a fight against her. They just have to like break the machine. And
Hmm.
like they're in two totally separate areas. I think that actually adds as much logic as you can to this scenario
For
of like
sure.
how do you defeat this person who's got like Scarlet Witch level power.
She can rip your skin off
Yeah.
in like snap of her fingers.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
that's just a challenge that the MCU has in general now because like not that you always have to elevate the stakes all the time, but like it's at least very tempting to like you got to find something bigger and badder than what we had before.
yeah, there's always a
Yeah,
problem with escalation.
and after Thanos, that gets hard.
It does, and
Yeah.
I think you had. We'll talk about this more in detail later too. But like, you had kind of an idea of that with Kang
Hmm.
because him being like time traveler
Yep.
has a lot of knowledge, so maybe you can use that against you, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And him, there's just so many of him.
there's so many of him, right?
Right.
There's that overwhelming thing. Um, Honestly, the one that kind of like trips me up the most is like Galactus,
Yeah.
right? Like him being the size, a size enough that he can eat planets and universes.
Yeah.
Like that to me seems almost unfeasible.
Isn't that also kind of Dormammu's thing?
Kind of.
Galactus is certainly the one more famous for it.
No, I think Galactus is more famous for
That's what I'm
it.
saying. Galactus is more
Dormammu.
famous for it, but like that's both their shtick. They're big, they eat.
I can't remember, but my main knowledge of Dormammu is from like one of the Marvel vs. Capcom games, where
Mm,
he is like a physical like being,
yeah.
as opposed to like in the MCU where he's like
A
a
big cloud
big
monster.
cloud monster in the void, right?
Yeah.
So not the same void, different void.
Different form. Yeah.
Um, we kind of get our first introduction after they escape for like the Deadpool core with Nightpool and Darkpool.
Yeah.
That is an ugly ass fucking dog.
It is an ugly dog.
He
I didn't love the dog.
it's it's one of those jokes that like I get it,
Yeah.
and I don't get me wrong, I love dogs,
Yeah.
but I'm like, all right,
But I actually kind of wish, and I don't know what the dog would have done, but I kind of wish the dog had more to do. Like for the amount that Main Wade loves the dog.
he just loves the dog.
He does love the
I
dog.
think he just loves the fact that it's an ugly ass dog like
Yes.
him.
And it tracks, but then the amount that we have to like buy into like him loving the dog, I wish the dog had more. I wish the dog had more to do with this movie.
Yeah. Um, they get the Honda Odyssey, which
Yes.
again,
I love nice pool though.
Nightpool is so
Yeah.
funny. The
Yes, regeneration.
his fourth wall break
Yeah.
is just him turning to the camera and saying the proposal,
Yes.
which is funny. And I love Wade's reaction. He's like, "Bitch, do you think that's all I do?" Which is very on the nose. Um, One thing that I found was interesting, and somebody put it on online, is that because Nightpool doesn't regenerate, he's the only one whose suit is actually armored.
Armor. Yeah.
And
Good
I'm
point.
like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good like bit of foreshadowing
Right.
that like, he cannot regenerate. Um that leads to like we said that very cool fight in the woods, in the van.
Yeah.
I thought was really well shot because it gives you a sense of like claustrophobia because like you are stuck in the van.
Yes.
Even like Wade has to like get rid of his swords because he's like, this is not.
It's not
I
helping.
cannot swing these things in here.
Yeah.
Logan for sure has the upper hand.
Correct.
I love the visual. Also like the sound, like the song they choose here.
Which was what again?
You're the one that I want,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
I love that this also is shot almost like a sex scene at the end
Yeah.
of just the car just shaking
Shaking
back
back
and
and forth,
forth and them grunting.
and they're in the throes of
It's probably the most like homoerotic like
part of this movie.
part of this movie, I feel.
Yeah.
Which is also very funny because then you have people going like, "This is what we need, just dudes being dudes."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
sure. Um, I think the having that fight be shot that way, I think it's also very creative
Mhm.
because it lets you kind of know like the limitations of like what they can kind of do,
Right.
which is like to each other,
Not
not
much.
a
Yeah.
goddamn thing. Like
Yeah.
it's all just them like
Just pain,
venting out
convenience.
their frustrations.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think the scene also does really good is showing you that like all of this just hurts them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they are indestructible, they will heal, but like they are constantly like, "Ow, this really fucking hurts."
Right.
Which I think is cool. I also love the visual at the end of the fight where Logan is just passed out and
And
then
Wade's just wrapped up
Deadpool
in
is
the
wrapped up in the belt,
seatbelts.
which is so funny.
Yeah.
And also like that then leads to why he doesn't have the sleeves
Mm.
at the end of the movie
Yeah.
because all his leaves are just torn to
Right.
shreds.
Exactly.
Which is also kind of funny because like that's people were like, why does he not like? I don't
Why
like
does he
him
have
having the
sleeves?
sleeves. I
Yeah.
don't like him not having the sleeves. So I'm
He
like, well,
gets
you
it.
get both.
Yep. He gets the sleeves. Gets the sleeves off. He gets the hat. He
Yeah.
gets it all.
Um, so we get our big three, our big four cameos here.
Okay.
One was spoiled before the movie came out, which was the X-23
Yep.
because they released the final
I
trailer.
knew I knew that one was I knew that one was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of wish they hadn't spoiled it, but I also feel like Logan's story being what it is,
Yeah.
I feel like it was the most obvious one.
Correct.
Um, I was surprised by Elektra being back.
Yeah, me too.
I never thought I would see.
I always forget about Electro.
I always did too. I don't hate that movie, by the way.
I haven't seen it.
It's all right.
It was to the point though where I was half expecting Ben Affleck to be back.
Which I think is a funny fucking joke.
Yeah. That
He's
she's
like,
there. He's
oh,
like,
like yeah, anyone who went there like is dead.
right.
They're like, Punisher.
Yeah.
Somebody else went in there, and then also
Daredevil.
Daredevil. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. She's like, that's whatever,
Yeah.
which is funny as hell. Um, Blade being back. I don't have a lot of attachment to Blade, so like I saw him coming back. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
But like, I don't love the Blade movies.
I didn't realize how much attachment people did have to play.
People fucking love Blade.
Yeah.
Um, and then for me, the one that really tickled me was
Gambit,
Gambit,
yes.
who I think he might be my favorite cameo.
I had forgotten that that was actually supposed to happen. The Channing Tatum,
The
the Channing
Channing
Tatum
Tatum thing.
Gambit. Um,
I think
to
it's perfect for what this movie is.
yeah, absolutely. I loved all the Cajun jokes.
The Cajun jokes were great.
Yeah.
It goes back to the very great joke about Cajuns and
What was your talent? What you mean?
the dialect joke was great.
Yeah.
The I think the things that I love the most about this is like it's such an insider like inside football joke
Yeah.
that like half the people are just like, hey, it's Channing Tatum playing Gambit.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
And like there's those of us who know
Uh,
like all this shit
that
who
this is
just
hilarious.
get this joke. And then he has those jokes peppered in where he's like, I just feel like I was born in the void.
Right.
And like all the lives that we saved or we could have saved. Uh and also like just the use of his accent. And the funny thing is like watching the movie multiple times, you actually can understand what he's saying.
But yeah, there are words there. It's not just pure
And
gibberish.
for sure, it sounds like gibberish, but it's like, oh,
Yeah.
he is saying it's like the Juggernaut's like helmet's not coming off without that dome coming off too.
Right.
And that's what leads to like him saying, who's your dialect coach?
Yeah.
So like I love that like it does kind of pay off a bit in like a rewatch because you're kind of like bracing for it and
Yeah.
you're looking for it. But that first time, it really does sound.
I was watching the X-Men cartoon this year, and then
Have you
I
caught up on that?
I did. I saw the whole thing. But then I was like, I do not remember this character being like, not that I couldn't understand him, but I was like, I don't remember this voice being this annoying.
Yeah,
And
it's.
it
I'm
is.
sorry, man. That dialect
The Cajun accent really is the worst
really has got to go. It's
of
the
all
worst of all the American.
of all the. It's the worst accent.
You think so?
Oh, I think so.
Fair,
I think the Cajun accent is the worst accent.
fair. I don't want to get canceled by saying anything else,
No, but
but
how do they have?
oh, that's a really good line, by the way, where he talks to Blade. He's like, "I thought you were retired," and he's like, "Oh, like I'm trying to get canceled."
Did Blade sound like that in Blade?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He repeats his "motherfuckers always trying to skate uphill" line,
Right.
which again, it's a funny line. I think that's the for me the one that was like that's purely for fan service,
Yeah, exactly.
and I'm like, all right, whatever. Um, I think as far as like just skipping all the way forward to like the Deadpool core, I love this fight scene.
Mhm.
I think it's a lot of fun. Um, I don't know how much longer we can pump out one one take scenes that are clearly not one take scenes.
I don't know how much longer we can, having just seen both Spider-Verse movies, and I forget where else this happens. I don't know how much more I'm gonna be interested in of like hero versus 10,000 versions of themselves. And it's not to the point that I like dislike it or hate it, but like I saw that scene and I did feel like it's fun. Like I like what they're doing stylistically to this scene. If anything, actually for me the one taking has helped. But
It
like
does. I think it adds
yeah,
to it.
but like I do still feel like when I saw that I was like, okay, I've seen this before.
So for me, it's not even the one takiness that makes it like not as impressive. I think it's the fact that like it's so severely CGI'd
Yeah.
that you're like, well, this clearly wasn't a one take.
Right.
So like you trying to make it look like it makes it almost look even more fake.
Mm.
It like kind of amplifies some of like the rubberiness of like some of the characters.
Yeah.
Um, so I wasn't super hot on it. Not saying that I dislike it. I almost like kind of going back a little bit, the fight that happens at Ant-Man's corpse.
Yeah.
Um, bec-
More.
because that one felt more real.
Mm.
Yeah, it's shot to shit with like the shaky
I'd
cam.
say that's right. I agree with Dan as we're even watching. I was like, "Oh, I wish I saw more."
Just pull the camera back a little bit,
Yeah.
keep it a
Yeah.
little bit more steady. I get they wanted to kind of make it feel more chaotic and
Right.
more like you're in it and like the confusion of it. But I also feel like we have these characters who are finally getting their time to shine.
Yeah.
Let me see them
That's what I wanted.
kind of
I
get.
wanted to see them more.
Yeah. I do think Gambit does get like the coolest like upgrade via the R-ratedness,
Yeah, absolutely.
like him being able to like blow people up with his cards. I
Yeah.
feel like is really cool.
I like the sticky, more like sticky grenades, and then like,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
really cool. And I also noticed that his eyes do turn black and purple when he activates his powers,
cool.
which people were like, "Why does like I wish he had the eyes the whole time." I'm like,
Not
could you imagine with
necessary.
the dust of the fucking budget?
Not
Uh-uh.
necessary. Yeah.
Hell no.
Why do people want that so much? Why do they want it for Batman? Why do they want it? I get wanting Wolverine's cowl. I did see it. I was glad it was there. I do think it still looks ridiculous, right, in live
Yeah,
action. Like I feel like this only works for
certain characters.
Deadpool, right? Where like he's Spider-Man, where like the
Yeah,
covered face is integral to their character.
yeah.
I don't get why people are obsessed with wanting the eyes in live action.
I
Why
think
white it out?
so. There's something to it, and I will kind of say this with like Cap,
Yeah.
for example. I think it's in the first Avengers movie.
Hmm.
He gets like his traditional costume back. He's got the helmet, like the face covering on.
Yeah.
He looks like a fucking dork.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but then in Captain America Winter Soldier,
Yeah.
like they tweak it,
Yes.
and he still has his face covered,
Right.
but it doesn't look as dorky.
The eyes are
So
always visible.
the eyes are
Yeah.
visible. I I don't necessarily know that it's the eyes to me that like would be necessarily like rough. I think for me it's the fact that like because they have to CGI the eyes,
Yeah.
that makes it look even more fake.
Yes.
And somebody pointed it out, and like after my first time watching it, and then like every other time watching it, I could not focus on this.
Hmm.
At the end of the fight scene with with the Deadpool core, um, they jump out of the back of the window and they land, and the Wolverine that lands because he is still the same Wolverine from that animation
Yeah.
because he doesn't go off frame. It's the most CGI looking Hugh Jackman you could ever see in your life.
Hmm.
He looks like a video game character doing an idle animation,
Yeah.
and it's jarring as hell.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy. Because then Deadpool pops up and it's just Ryan Reynolds in the suit.
Right.
So like that looks normal.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know. How do you feel about like the MacGuffin they have in this, the Time Ripper?
I like that it's called the MacGuffin. Um, I think it makes sense, right? I don't have strong feelings about it either way. Like I said, I like that it's there and like how it's resolved in a way that allows the heroes to overcome the antagonist without actually a head-to-head fight against the
Yeah,
antagonist.
yeah. I feel like. that would not be
Yeah,
that would not be done in a satisfying way. I feel like because like having them face off against Cassandra, I feel like their power sets are very different.
right. I like that I like that it was happening like without the TVA heads knowing.
Yeah.
Because it is to the point where like I remember that now Loki should be like in charge of the TVA, and now he's the tree being or whatever
Hmm.
he is, right? But I'm still not like 100% certain as to like how the intricacies of the TVA work under the new Loki regime. So
So my understanding for at least for this, the way it affects this is they because everything is so like spread out now,
yeah,
like they give people like
a lot of autonomy.
not just autonomy, but they give people like different sections to guard over.
Yeah,
And this was specifically Paradox's thing.
right.
And so therefore he's able to do
Whatever he
kind of
wants.
whatever he wants,
Yeah,
almost unchecked. But it's not until things are like extremely irregular that like it starts to like
get the
kind
attention
of
of
get the attention exactly.
yeah,
And that's where they go to the boss lady.
yeah. That's the
Uh,
extent of my feelings on them. Nothing.
yeah, I think it's kind of a funny thing where people are like, well, why don't they just use the little pruner things, the little like bombs they used in Loki?
Hmm.
And I was thinking like, well, I think those are meant for like timelines,
Whereas this has been for
whereas this is meant for like erasing a whole
the whole universe.
universe, right? So I think that makes sense to me. Um, I do think it's funny that the reasoning behind this machine being how it is to get Wolverine and Deadpool to like do a double sacrifice at the end,
Yeah.
which fine.
Why not? Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
The use of Madonna's song here is very good.
Yes.
I like it a lot. I love that Peter is just like kind of like always failing upwards.
I'd forgotten about Peter, and I liked my actual favorite part of the Deadpool fight was when they all see that it's
Like,
Peter.
oh shit, it's Peter. Peter, the legend in every universe. Every Deadpool has a Peter. I love that everybody's like Peter. Even Logan's like,
Yeah.
yeah, enjoy my Peter. Um, I think this movie. I love the fact that they bring back. The implication is at the end of the movie they save everybody from like everybody who helped them. Blade,
Right.
Elektra, X-23, Gambit.
Correct.
I don't think we'll see Gambit. I don't think we'll see Elektra. I don't
No.
think we'll see Blade.
Yes.
I do hope that if they do come back in Secret Invasion, it would be kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
But I would like to see X-23 come back for more.
And
I feel like
that
Laura Kinney, not Laura Kinney. Well, Laura Kinney, the character, yes, but like Daphne Keene, I think
is a good actress.
she's a great
I
actress, and
agree.
I do think
Well,
she
that
would like it. I think she would like to be involved in something as big as this.
that character was created with the intention that it could be expanded upon in the films, is what I'm saying.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, but like I mean, she does have a lot of like comic story.
Oh
She
yes,
does
yes.
have like a full on like thing where she does take over the mantle of
That's what I'm
Wolverine.
saying. I think you can watch Logan and be like, I can
She,
see them making movies with her.
yeah, for sure. Um, I don't know that I would necessarily want her to take over the role of Wolverine, especially when we have Henry Cavill right there.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know about that.
I am. Um, I'm wondering, and maybe this might be our this might be our segue into conversation about greater MCU stuff.
Sure.
Um, I'm honestly wondering if like the next saga, whenever this all wraps up in 2026, is going to just largely be an X-Men dominated saga, and then maybe they'll work out, once we get closer to there, they'll work out who's going to be who. Um, but it seems, given where we are currently in like the state of the MCU, and then what's just been telegraphed for us in Comic-Con,
Hmm.
um, it seems like we're not going to get a whole lot of X-Men stuff immediately, even though we know Beast is around, right?
Yeah,
I forget who else is. We know Kamala Khan's or
a
Kamala Khan's a
mutant.
mutant, right?
Hmm.
Um, and like Scarlet Witch is, it's not adjacent.
Hmm.
But it does just seem that like we're gonna wrap up multiverse, we're gonna get some Fantastic Four stuff, but maybe really getting into the deep and nitty gritty of MCU X-Men is just gonna have to wait until after Secret Wars.
Hmm.
I don't know, but it
Yeah,
seems like there's a lot of ground to cover.
for sure. And
Yeah,
I think that's good.
I do too.
I know people are like aching for the X-Men to just like full on like jump into everything.
I'm not honestly.
And I'm like, I think we already have a problem where we have so much going on.
So much going on, but then I think another specific subset of that problem that like Phase 4, 5, and 6 had was the fact that not only are you catapulting new stories, but you're having these characters who like are either introduced in Phase 2 or many in Phase 3, where you now have to either like fill their arc or you now need to progress their arc. So you have some people who you're starting off at square zero, but you have some people who you have to like carry on from square like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
And there's that disjointedness of
that too. And then
yeah,
also like you run into the Shang-Chi problem
yeah,
where you have a character that people genuinely like
it
a
hasn't been done.
movie
Yeah,
and you haven't seen a peep of it.
right.
And you're like, well, we're what, 2024, 3 years out from Shang-Chi, what?
Yeah, it's about time.
November-ish, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
So like what, we just not gonna touch him for another 5 years?
yeah.
We might see him in Doomsday, we might see him in Secret Invasion,
But there's not currently
but that's 4 years from where he showed up.
there was a sequel, right? That was on the calendar, right?
I
Wasn't
don't
it
think it
not?
was ever official.
Okay,
I don't think it was ever
yeah.
officially in the
But it's
calendar.
certainly not on the calendar now.
No, and
Yeah,
not from what they've said.
yeah.
The only the only kind of like hope for a Shang-Chi thing is at D23
Yeah.
in September. Because I feel like Comic-Con was primarily for like, hey, here's what we have going on with things that are already existing.
Hmm.
Let's get you kind of excited about that. I'm hoping that D23 will be like, this is like what we want to do.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not reading this incorrectly, there's nothing in 2026 except for Doomsday.
And there should be something
And I feel
else.
like if that's in May,
Yeah.
they could do something in like February or March, something maybe like end of summer.
Which really quick, I think we both agree this off year for the MCU relatively worked. Right. This is the
Yeah,
only. Were there shows this year? I don't remember.
I
Was Echo this year?
think Echo was early this year,
But then even that is like,
kind of
what's it called? What did they officially call it? Did they call it like,
Marvel Spotlight.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then this is separate, obviously. So one movie,
one
one
movie, maybe one
maybe
show.
one show. I
Um,
think we agreed going
well, we're
into it
getting House of Harkness
in the
or
yeah,
Agatha, whatever the hell it's called, Agatha All Along.
right.
So there's that. I think,
But I think we agreed going into this year that it needed an off year,
yeah, I think it's
and
good
I think that's true. I think the off year is paying off.
for sure. And I
Yeah.
think it kind of made people overlook some of the like some of the content in this movie a little bit more because
Yeah,
people crave this.
we
I
are.
mean, we yearn for the void.
Yeah,
We yearn for the MCU. This movie made bank, so much bank, 250, no, 211 million.
this is about to be the second weekend, right?
This is going to be the second
So
weekend. It's
we
already at 590 million
so
worldwide.
we saw this the Thursday after it came out at 12 p.m. So it was
Yeah,
a full
it was
theater.
busy.
Yep.
It wasn't like it wasn't sold
It wasn't
out, but
packed, but it
like
was
the
yeah.
good seats were taken.
Yes.
And that's I have gone
Not something we've
to
seen in a while.
even I feel like the only movie that is comparable to this right now
Hmm.
is probably Inside Out 2
Yep.
because we saw Inside Out 2 about 2, 3 weeks after it came out,
Yeah.
and it was still a relatively busy theater,
Yeah.
but it was not as full as this one was.
Right.
And even that was like at a more prime time. I think it was like a 5 p.m.
Exactly.
on like uh Monday night or Tuesday night or something like that.
And it's still pulling well when it's now even competing with Minions. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of amazing. People liked it, a cinema score, which is great. I think that going into like the state of the MCU,
Yeah.
it's kind of it's a good chance for them to kind of scale things appropriately.
Yes.
This movie had a pretty solid budget of 200 million,
Yeah.
so I'm hoping that they can kind of keep that up.
And was
Um,
able to do a lot with that budget,
I
I
think
would
so
say.
too.
Yeah.
I think the worst movie right now, or not the worst movie, but the one that has the biggest ceiling to
Hmm.
reach is Cap 4
Hmm.
because they have refilmed that movie twice,
Yeah.
which is
A lot.
kind of insane.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's good. The trailers look good.
Yeah.
The story they're kind of teasing seems interesting. I honestly have no fucking clue what is going on with Thunderbolts.
Right. But it's happening.
It's happening. We know that they have already shown footage.
Yep.
We know that they haven't had as many like reshooting issues as they had with Cap. So that's
A good thing.
hopefully a good thing. So the way we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but the way they kind of do reshoots with Marvel is they kind of film the movie. If things don't work, they reshoot whatever they don't want,
Yeah.
and and sometimes that could be a little bit. Sometimes that could be like half the movie,
Yeah.
or in the case of Cap, it could be the entire thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry,
A lot.
that is insane.
Yep.
It's a waste of money. It's a waste of
Time.
people's time.
Yep.
It's a waste of like your resources with like your CG people,
Yeah.
which are already being spent then.
Yeah.
So my hope is that for Fantastic Four, like we talked about yesterday, it's supposed to come out in a year,
Which is crazy.
which is insane. So I don't think it's happening
In a year.
in a year. It could happen if maybe they push it to like shit, November.
I think this is the point where actually, before we all kind of agree that there was too much content, this is where I'd actually be fine pushing those Avengers movies back a little bit and like adding some more content.
Yeah.
Because I still don't feel my personal gripe is it's still not been fulfilled. I still don't feel like we have tentpole characters
Hmm.
for this saga that we're telling.
I think that's the problem with A, the strikes don't help.
Nope, nothing.
B,
Lots of
COVID didn't help,
lots of worldwide events happened.
right?
Yeah. Jonathan
I
Majors, Chadwick Boseman. Yep. Yeah.
absolutely. I feel like your more consistent characters have been maybe Peter
Yeah.
and Doctor Strange.
But even still, Peter was 2021.
Peter was
Right.
2021.
Both of these are like leftover characters. I like going into it. I thought our main characters were going to be Wanda and Loki, and like I even had a
Yeah.
whole thematic like thing in my head for like why that made sense.
Oh, and it does
Yeah,
make sense.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I mean, Loki has been the one who has had the most
yeah.
play, right?
It's all been TV,
It's all been TV. Who knows
right?
how many people are watching?
Right.
Kamala,
Yeah, I love Kamala.
maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So who knows? The TV end of things, maybe that's a little bit more consistent. We have Daredevil.
Yep.
We have Agatha coming up. Ironheart coming up next year. Blade's not happening.
Yeah.
Uh, that joke. I don't think they realize.
There was a lot said in that joke.
I don't think they realize how spot on they're going to be with that joke. Holy shit!
Yeah.
It's amazing
Yeah.
how they announced that in 2019,
Yeah. It's been a long ass time.
and they were like
Right.
fucking nuts. I don't know. I'm I'm optimistic. I know that a lot of the shakiness is a symptom of how big the MCU got,
Yep.
but I absolutely also do think that it was
Paycheck.
Bob Paycheck, who really did come in and was just like, you know how we've had a constant stream?
Yeah.
Let's just turn the hose on and just
All the way.
all splash.
Right.
And that's a problem.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm hoping that now that Bob Iger's back, he said that they're scaling back.
Right.
Kevin Feige said they're scaling back. I hope they do take that to heart
Yeah.
because I mean it does make me optimistic. I feel like yeah we've had some gripes with this movie, but I do feel like the
No,
pros
this
severely outweigh the cons.
I think this is we've talked about this with other types of movies where there's always gonna be right? A Deadpool movie can also only be so good,
There's a
right?
ceiling.
There's a ceiling. There's a ceiling for a Deadpool movie, and I think this one got to as close as the ceiling
Yeah, for sure,
as it potentially could have gotten.
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So those are our thoughts on the movie.
Hmm.
Um, I am very much looking forward to getting back into the swing of things. We're starting school soon,
We are.
but we'll crank out
We gotta
some eps soon. We
figure out how to
might.
stretch these legs, make them a bit longer.
Yes, dude, I'm excited. I'm hoping. I don't know. I'm curious to see what you'll think of that movie. I loved it.
Yeah.
I love long legs. Spoiler alert. Um, we might talk about Hadi.
Let's talk about how deep.
Might talk about Hadi. We got Trap coming out this weekend.
Oh yeah.
I'm seeing it Sunday, so
There's always something to see.
it's always something to see, my
There's
friend.
always something to see.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please share this with your friends.
Yeah.
I know people have been asking like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like, "Well, we are busy people."
Exactly.
So share, like. Until next time, he has been Thano.
He has been Javier.
This has been the Cine-Scoots movie show. Bye bye.
Bye.